If you thought the Dungeons & Dragons combat in Baldur's Gate 3 was too slow, well, this game might be for you, and that game is Dark Alliance. It's set in the Icewind Dale. It's a co-op action RPG. The game looks promising, but for an online co-op dungeon crawler like this, there is 3 things that Dark Alliance has to get right. This video is sponsored by you. I just want to say thank you for the 5,000 subscribers. It really means a lot to me that you guys, or 5,000 of you, clicked that big red button. And also, if you go on to enjoy this video and you haven't clicked that button, be sure to do so. Thank you so much, guys. I will have the sources for the information presented in this video in the comments below if you do want to read the article yourselves, but let's get into it. So, Dark Alliance is made by a very small studio called Took Games and being published directly by Wizards of the Coast. Took Games has only made one game before this, and that's called Lifelock, which is a top-down action co-op game set in kind of a sci-fi setting. Looks kind of interesting. In 2019, they were purchased by Wizards to make Dark Alliance, and well, here we are. Dark Alliance brings the Forgotten Realms to life in a action RPG filled with real-time combat and dynamic co-op. Choose your hero between a fighter, a rogue, barbarian, or a ranger. The 4 characters that are going to be in this game are characters you may have heard of before if you do follow some of the lore. Now, I'm going to butcher these names, but I'm going to do my best, alright? So the 4 characters that are going to be available is the dual-wielding Dritz Duerden, the ranger Canterbury, the tanky barbarian Wolfgar, and the defense-focused dwarf Bruna Battle Hammer. For games like this that's looking for a combat-focused dungeon crawlery loot game, the 3 things that they have to nail is combat, progression, and content. And I'll explain why. Starting with content, the combat in Dark Alliance is going to be similar to your typical action RPGs that we've seen before. According to IGN, each have a strong attack, a light attack, a dodge, a couple of special abilities that run on cooldown timers, and a powerful ultimate that will charge up with each kill. Each of the 4 classes will have their own combos and abilities based around their specific class. They each get 6 abilities to choose from to slot within 2 active ability slots, which you will run on a cooldown timer, which is interesting because we're not really using spell slots or anything here, so it seems like it's just going to be cooldown based, which is probably a better solution for an action RPG like this. Each class will be able to heal themselves with potions, but it is also mentioned that the ranger does have a healing ability that can be used to heal your allies. You'll be up against all kinds of D&D creatures, from goblins and gnolls and trolls, and in the footage that we've seen so far, it is pretty hard to tell how deep this combat system and the enemies really go, especially in terms of their mechanics and the complexities of the AI. The enemy needs to have their own attack pools, especially the bosses, with varying mechanics that keeps the combat fresh, as well as enabling each of these classes to really shine and do their own things. You know, there needs to be bosses where being close range might be at a disadvantage, so you know, the ranger or something really comes into advantage for that kind of combat, and it needs to be more involved than just spamming your abilities all day, which can get very old, especially in a system like this where you're just going to be crawling through dungeons constantly. There is also going to be like a challenge rating system that increases the bosses or enemies difficulties, as well as the quality of loot rewards that you can get, very similar to like the Outriders world tier system that you may have seen in the demo. Overall, like, that's a positive thing. It gives you some replayable content, but if you're just increasing the health pools and the damage of enemies, it doesn't immediately make that content more engaging. It just means it's more difficult. So if the content is good initially, then these things will really start to shine. Plus, when it comes to loot, you know, the loot has to actually be valuable and worth doing to actually bring us further into the game. And that brings us to progression. IGN reports that the loot system is like somewhat a standard affair, increases in various resistances as a set bonuses for wearing the same type of gear. How much that variation and the variety there is in the gear is really yet to be determined. We don't really know that yet. However, my hope is that we're not going to be constantly picking up the same item or piece of gear and it's just got slightly higher power level. You know, there's so many games out there that use systems very similar to that these days, and it's not a system that I really enjoy. You know, it's very common these days that you pick up a new assault rifle, it does 100 DPS, and you're just unequipping the one that did 80 DPS. The weapon looks almost identical. It has the same feeling, like recoil, everything. It's just, you know, slightly better damage. You know, I would rather a system system that focuses more on the gear itself and the pieces you get rather than, just increasing your power level. It's hard to tell what we're going to get here, although you can increase the level of the gear you've already found, which may be valuable, especially if you are focusing on those set bonuses as you are leveling up. Gear will also have that typical rarity system, uncommon, rare, and the higher varieties. The studio has this really cool idea and unique idea really for the way they're going to do short rests, and IGN describes it as, in Dark Alliance you can take a short rest after certain fights to refill your consumable items and create a checkpoint. Though if you do take a short rest, you'll respawn all the monsters you've slain so far. Conversely, if you opt to skip a short rest when it's offered, you can increase your odds of finding better loot as you explore the level and defeat enemies. So this is really cool. This is a really good choice that you can make as a party if you're playing as a group of 4. Do you want to go for those better resources and the better equipment if you don't short rest, or do you need that short rest? That payoff and that decision is going to be a really interesting factor in these linear dungeon style missions that the game is going to offer. Now, the other form of progression is your character progression themselves, and each of the 4 classes will have their own progression system with a level cap of 20 and 6 abilities to choose from, which can be slotted into 2 ability slots. How this really progresses and the depth of that leveling system, we have yet to see. We haven't seen the talent system or how that's really going to be played out, whether it's just going to be, you level up, you get a little bit more health, maybe a little bit more damage, however that works, whether you're actually going to be picking, skills or other bonuses, or if it's just going to be these abilities that you unlock as you level. Now, the other thing is content, and the one still really big question mark and is often the most important with really any of these games as a service kind of games is the content, and how much content is going to be in the base game and what's to come after that point. You can't really have these online games without having a plan to how you're going to develop into the future. Doing some digging, I found a Polygon article, which I've also linked in the comments down below, where Polygon specifically asks the creative director and co-founder Jeff Haddam about various aspects of the game, including the end game and content. Lots of downloadable content is on the drawing board, including content expansions and additional gameplay modes outside of the game's fairly linear dungeon crawls. This also gives us information about the dungeon crawls and saying that, they are going to be pretty linear, so they're not going to be big exploring areas that you can kind of delve into yourself. It's going to be a pretty linear path from A to B. If players want more maps, we'll make more maps, Haddam said. If they want more characters, we'll make more characters. If they want more gear sets, we'll make more gear sets. If they want all of it, we'll make all of it. So basically, if you want end game content and you want this game to survive, you're going to have to ask for it, which is an interesting proposition. So I do hope that this game does survive and that there is a lot of content to come. However, we don't really know how many maps we're going to get in the base game. We don't know heaps about what the real story is going to be, or if there really is one, to have that kind of connective tissue between the dungeons that you're going to be crawling through. And for those interested, it is possible to play these missions solo. It just may take you some more time. So for those of us out there, just like myself, who play most of these games by themselves, it is possible to solo these missions. It's probably just going to be a little bit harder. The co-op RPG is heading to PC, PS4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Xbox One on June 22nd. And I'm really looking forward to see what this game has in store, especially considering it's only a few months away. If you're looking for more Dungeons & Dragons content, check out my Baldur's Gate 3 content. I have a ton of Baldur's Gate 3 content that you may enjoy if you like a slower paced Dungeons & Dragons game. Please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and on Twitch, where I stream 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Australian night times. Hope to see you guys there in the next stream. Thank you for watching this video. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.